Morning, Ginge. How you doing, girl? Huh? Morning, guys. We are back at it on the hydraulic pump for the skid steer. And so the last time I left you, we had put the that poly coupler back on the skid steer on the flywheel, put the plate back in. All that is ready to go, and we've got our pumps in pieces. Obviously, I haven't touched these two. I'm not going to. Here are my two bolts, which I already said. These are actually 1.5 inches long, and they are 5/16 bolts. And so I got some bolts here, and this is 1.5 inches, just a regular headed bolt. It does have, I think, enough of a shoulder here that I could use it. The problem is that the head is too large to fit in here. It'll fit, but with the head in, you don't have any room for a socket. So that won't work. So I've got a socket head cap screw, which takes just an Allen or a spud. And the problem is, to get the shoulder on here, I had to go to a 2-inch. So I'm actually going to use a 2-inch bolt. I'm going to cut it down to 1.5 inches, clean up the threads. We'll be good to go. And then I'm going to change the bushing on this piece here. We actually machined new bushings because, as you see here, that's what all these busted up pieces are right here. That one there is only in 3 pieces. This one here was in a bunch of little pieces. I don't know how many actually went through the pump. These here are the new bushing dowels, dowel bushings, whatever you want to say, that we made. We actually just took a grade 8 bolt and machined it down to get this. So, you know, I know it's not ideal, but these pieces are no longer available. So this is better than having nothing in there. I am in the process of taking this bearing off. E10 torque was able to get it. It didn't really fit it just perfect, but there's not a whole lot of torque on this piece, so it was enough. So I'm not sure what size it is. My next size up is a T15, and it's too big, so it's somewhere in there. So then this piece here comes off. Here's what it looks like. There's the old piece. Here's the new piece. Part number on this piece is a 132646. Hydraulic oil on this surface here. So now we're going to put our little screw in here. And it doesn't take a whole, it takes like, I think the spec is like 14 inch-pounds. So, not a whole lot. I think that's pretty good. Got a calibrated torque in my hand here. You're supposed to actually put the bushing dowels into this piece first, just to press them in. Alright guys, so I got the bushings pressed in. I am going to put a little bit of oil on this. So there's 4 holes, okay, only 2 of them are bolt holes, the other 2 are just oil passages. You can kind of see the threads in them. Alright, and this piece here has to go in upright like this. You can't put it in like this because it won't fit through the hole. So since it's shaped, instead of just being completely round, it's got 2 flat sides here. You put it in here like this, and once you get it in here, then you lay it flat. You got your hole. You gotta get your holes, your dowels lined up with your holes, and all that good stuff. So I've got it pretty well lined up. I'm gonna have to kind of maneuver it and finagle it to get the dowels to go in the hole. So we got that in there. I don't have the bolts in. I gotta get the bolts in. Gotta get some Loctite on it and get the bolts in and torque it down. These bolts, the 2 bolts to keep this piece in, is they get torqued down to, I believe, 28 foot-pounds. Clicked on that one. Maybe I can hold this one too. Yep. Next step is you can either put the shaft in now, or you can go ahead and put the servo in and then the shaft. Those two things don't really matter, but you cannot put the piston pack in until after you put the servo in. I'm going to go ahead and put the servo in. I'm going to kind of clean it off here a little bit, and then we'll lube it down with some fresh oil. I did not replace these seals. They still feel good. They still look good. I talked to the guy at the Gehl dealership, and he said actually those seals, you can usually reuse those a few times before you have to do anything with them. Lube it up here. I'm going to do it over the pump, so whatever excess goes in there, and it'll just be more lubrication for it. Now, this will only go in one way. It's got to go in from this direction. And I left, again, as you saw whenever I disassembled, I left my cap on. Now, if you're doing something maybe a little bit more in depth, if you're needing to do something to this cap, then whenever you have to actually screw it off of the thing. And the spec for starting point, right over here, you measure from this face to the end of the servo piston, and that's supposed to be 12.7 millimeters, which is basically a ½ inch in you know, American terms, normal terms, whatever you want to say. Alright guys, so we got the controls back on. Now we're going to put the shaft in. And so it has to go in from the bottom, or the way it's sitting right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the pump down flat like this. And then if you look here, there's actually 2 thrust washers and a thrust bearing, a couple snap rings. I didn't even take those loose. Olive oil on that needle bearing, just so it's not starting out dry. Which it may already have some oil in it, but I just want to make sure it's got plenty. And that just slides right in nice and easy. And then there's a spacer that goes in. So this spacer, it's like a cup. The small diameter goes to the inside. Otherwise, it'll slip right in there and you'll have way too much play. So it goes in like this. And then I got a snap ring that'll go in here in this groove, and that'll keep that shaft from moving in and out. So there it is with the snap ring in it. Alright guys, so I had to take a break from the hydraulic pump because I got somebody come over with Dad's to get a little bit of hay. So I'm going to go over there, and then on the way, I'm going to drop about 12, I'm going to drop 12 bales off at a customer that's just right down the road here. This will be the first time I've ever gotten to actually load some hay from my house to sell. So let's get her loaded up, drop that off, and get over to Dad's, and we'll get that hay loaded up and get some hay moving out the door. Well, we got her loaded. Not even putting a strap on it. We're just going to drive. It's only about 2 miles down the road. I'm going to take it easy. So there's 12 bales on there. Ready to roll. All right, guys. So we've got the plate down there in the bottom of the pump, or in the back of the pump, from wherever you want to say, where the bolts were broke. We got that all torqued down. We got the new bushing on there. Next step is to take the cam follower, and we're going to install that in here. This is called the cam plate. This piece in here is called the cradle. Okay, so you take the cam plate. This is what actually controls your piston part and actually makes it stroke. Okay, so what we got to do is this here goes in here like so, and it'll only go one way because you have your follower here on the top. There's a little dowel. This piece goes on there, and that piece actually goes in. Let me get my light. That piece actually goes, if you can see it, the groove up there in the piston, on the servo piston. So We'll do that. Get this puppy down in there. Then we'll be ready to install the piston assembly. Alright, let's see if we can get this in there without messing anything up too terribly bad. And this is clean. I've lubed up the bearing surface. We're going to attempt to get this piece in here and keep our... Oh, that's not good. Don't do that, guys. And it didn't tear anything up. It's just that the follower is not on the top now. We wouldn't want it to be easy, otherwise anybody would be doing this. Okay, it's in the groove, so that's a good thing. Okay, I think it's in there. Okay, so I got that in there. Now we'll put the piston assembly in. I've already got my control linkage on. However, I'm going to luck out the cam plate is staying in place. If you have trouble with this cam plate staying in place, you may have to actually take a screwdriver through this opening here and hold it in place. Now, all these pistons will come out of here. I don't want to take mine out of here because I'm not messing with that. So you can't put this in vertical or you'll lose your... Oh, like I'm about to lose those anyways, actually. We're going to take this bolt out. I got it propped up here just because I got a little bit of oil in here. I don't want it all running out, but we may have to just kind of deal with it. I'm actually going to put a little dab of oil on here. Good clean oil. Just to coat everything so it's all good and lubed. Then we're going to slide this on here. Once we get our splines lined up, rotate the shaft if we need to. There it goes. Now we're going to set the pump up and we'll put it in the vise. So here we are, back to this point. I've retained my gasket still on here. If you're repairing this, you'd replace all the seals, all the bearings and everything, but with parts being limited on availability, I don't want to replace anything I don't have to. And I don't want to take anything out that's not failed because I don't want to take a chance on damaging it and then have to replace it. So now this entire unit here is going to set up here, and if you remember, I did mark, put a mark here, which I didn't end up taking that apart. I put a mark right here, and that mark should line up with this mark. I don't know if you can see that, right here. There are some splines to go together on this shaft. Make sure you got everything in the right position. Uh-oh. Come on now. Ah, you sucker. Put some oil on here. If you got Vaseline would work. Dang it. Alright guys, I ended up getting it. As soon as I turned the camera off, I was going to go get some Vaseline or something to get it to stick better. And I just put a little bit more oil on it, pushed it together, and let it sit there for a little bit. And then I got it up there and got it down as fast as I could. And it's on there. Now we're going to put the gear rotor on, which is the charge pump. Whew. There's that. There we go. Whatever. Get the holes lined up. There's that. Now the lifting eye goes right over here. I had a picture of it. Put this bolt right here. Got this back together, everything torqued down. I think we're ready to go. I got coupling on here. I've got the poly coupler on the machine. This is ready to go. I did pull this off of the face here a little bit. I took a measurement on the machine to the front edge of the coupler. It is 1.25 inches to the leading edge and 2 inches to the back edge. So I just spaced this to where it's right about the center of that piece, and then I tighten my bolt down. We're gonna go out to the skid steer and see if we can get this one here installed and see how that goes. If everything goes smooth, then I might move on to this one. All right, guys. There's the pump. There's the hole. Let's do it. Got that one there in. Bolts tightened down. Went in pretty good. Now we're gonna get this one here, see if we can get it attached there. And we'll put the gear pump on and see what hoses we can get together. I definitely won't get far enough to start it up tonight, but we'll at least have, I think, the pumps in. And then maybe tomorrow I'll get a chance to connect some more lines and maybe, you know, get the system full of oil and maybe even try starting it, seeing what happens. So yesterday we got the pumps put back in. This here is not actually hooked up, I just got it set in there. So our next step is to reconnect all of our hoses. Well, we've got all our linkages hooked up. We've got all our hoses hooked up and tightened up. Everything seems pretty good. I'm going to let my cab down so I can put some oil in. And then once I get the oil in, I'm going to come back around here. I'm going to crack this supply line and just make sure I've got oil to the pump. Get ready to start it, I'm going to just bump it. I'm not going to crank it right up, but I want to bump it over, bump it over, bump it over, let it go slow. Then once I have done that a little bit, then when I do start it, you know, I'll listen. You don't want to hear any really bad noises or anything like that. And then if you do this, when you go to run it, you don't want to just crank it up and just full bore, because you're going to have air in there and everything. You want to kind of take it easy until you get the system, get things flowing, get the air out of the system and all that goes. First thing I'm going to do, somebody's not happy up there, huh? Here goes nothing, the moment of truth. So obviously it started up and ran, that's not a problem. But the coupler is what fixed the actually going problem. And I believe if you saw whenever I let off of it, it would still creep backwards on that side, which is the side that of the pump that I took apart. But it does it the same every time. So before, it would creep backwards, or it might creep forwards, or it may not creep at all. You know, it was just all over the place. This time, every time I let go, it creeped the exact same amount. So actually, I think that's probably adjustable. I think that's probably in my linkage. I need to adjust my linkage. We'll have to wait and see how the adjustments go, but if that fixes that, I think this entire endeavor would have been a complete success. Even if that's not, it will still have been a success because at least it's running and I can actually use it now. So just got to get a couple more buckets of oil. I'm going to pick up my tools and we're going to call it quits. That's a wrap for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys got something out of this. It was a complete success. The skid steer is running, moving, have full hydraulic control. Everything's doing good. I was able to adjust those linkages, and now whenever I let off, it's in neutral, so that's really good. Actually, the other side might need a little bit of adjustment, but so I think this was a complete success. I went from a skid steer that would start and run but wouldn't move to a fully capable machine. So thank you guys so much for watching. God bless you. God bless America. Franklin County Forage out.